Whoa.
That we become net zero by 2070.
Youth?
Youth is the key. We need the youth to understand the climate crisis and participate in the mitigation.
Finance?
Nothing happens without money. We need $10 trillion in next 20 to 30 years. Let's do whatever it takes to attract as much capital as possible.
Net zero?
Net zero seems like idealistic goal, but if we target that, we will achieve the outcomes of saving the planet.
ESG?
ESG should be a reminder, but reporting is not enough. We need to live it.
Investment insight?
We need to create projects which provide high returns to the investors so that we get a lot of capital coming to our projects.
Welcome to this episode of Sustainability Karma. I'm your host Naina Gautam, and today we have with us Pratyush Thakur. Pratyush Thakur is the Investment Director and Country Head India at Blueleaf Energy. Blueleaf specializes in utility-scale renewable projects, thereby advancing energy transition towards a net zero future. Welcome, Pratyush.
Thanks, Naina. Thanks for having me.
So, how hopeful are you of achieving your target to develop and build over 5 gigawatt of renewable energy projects by 2030 in India?
Very positive. We are already on the path. And the journey started with our first project in Madhya Pradesh, which is about 300 megawatt of wind solar hybrid. That project is operational. 250 megawatt is already commissioned and rest will be commissioned soon. We signed a partnership with Jackson Green earlier this year. That will give us 1 gigawatt of additional capacity. So in terms of our current presence, we already have 1.3 gigawatt in construction or operation. In addition, we are working on several projects across the country, which involve some greenfield development in the states of Karnataka, Gujarat, and Tamil Nadu, as well as acquisition of new projects. And these projects are either in early or late stage development or operational projects. So we continue to run our business development engine very actively. And I'm very, very positive that we will be able to get to 5 gigawatt by 2030, if not sooner.
How does Blueleaf integrate sustainability into its business model, including supply chain?
Yeah, so our core business model is to generate renewable energy. So we are contributing towards mitigating the greenhouse emissions because we generate carbon dioxide free electricity. So that is a very core part of our business operations. But we go much beyond that. Sustainability is not only mitigating greenhouse gases, but it is really making sure that whatever we do is sustainable on a long-term basis for all stakeholders who we impact. Right. So our stakeholders, of course, the first ones are our shareholders who provide us capital to build our business and grow it, who need sustainable returns, and we don't take risks which create dangers on the business. On the shareholder side, while economic returns are one, they're also very focused on the sustainability of the environment and the stakeholders like the workers working on site, the communities we work in. So we have very specific targets on ensuring that we operate our business in a very healthy and safe manner, which does not have problems for the employees or workers working on site. And also we are a good corporate citizen where the communities we are working in are, if not enjoying our presence, at least they are not annoyed with our presence.
Beyond clean power, how does Blueleaf create value for host communities and could address land issues concerns?
Yeah, so land issues is a very broad term, and that you would find several of my peers talking about, that it is difficult to acquire land for solar and wind projects. And it is correct, because the amount of land we aggregate for our large scale projects is humongous. To give you an example, the project we are doing in Bikaner, it requires about 3,000 acres of land. That is huge. That's multiple villages consumed into one. So we should first of all appreciate that the scale of land acquisition is pretty high. So what we do is that our first preference is to choose land which is either a wasteland or unusable land. Right? So there is no farming happening on it, or it will not impact the communities negatively. That's the first point. Even if it does, where we have to acquire some farmland, we make sure that the compensation we pay for either acquiring, buying, or leasing those lands is at market, and the person who's leasing it to us will be in a better economic position than what they are right now. So this is very, very important for us. And then we also make sure that not only the landowners who are giving us the land, the communities which are the neighboring communities, the people living in there, they also get some contributions from our side. So we have a very active community engagement team who goes and meets with community leaders, the schools, the hospitals, the Anganwadi, and we try to assess what are the needs of the community. In our first project, we ran a 4-month-long community needs assessment program with a local NGO, where we identified that what are the key gaps for the community needs. And now we have designed a program coming up with several interventions in the local areas to help the communities have a better life.
How critical are ESG compliance and green taxonomy for attracting financing?
It is very crucial, and since beginning we have made sure that we are keeping this very high on our agenda. Right? And this flows from the shareholder who's investing into Blueleaf. Blueleaf is 100% held by a fund which is being managed by Macquarie Group, and the fund already specifies the principles under which the investments would be made. So Macquarie has developed its own green scoring methodology, and any project we invest into goes through a very rigorous assessment of the green impact we are creating. And no investments are approved without the projects justifying that there is a proper green impact. So ESG reporting and the green impact reporting is very core to our investment decision process. And after we've made the investment, on a regular basis, there are third-party agencies who make assessments on our commitment and also compliance with whatever we have committed. So we take it very, very seriously. On a project level, for each project, we conduct an environmental and social impact assessment even we start doing any development activities on the project. And that impact assessment provides us, first of all, if we build this project on the site, will it have significant negative impact on the environment? Then we'll not build the project. But if there are minor impacts on the environment, then how do we build measures that those impacts could be mitigated? For instance, if there are birds in the region, do we have enough bird spikes on the transmission lines we are building? If we are doing construction, are we making sure that the dust coming out of construction does not impact the local people living there? If we are setting up wind turbines, we do a full assessment of what will be the shadow area, what will be the flicker area. So there's a very, very detailed work which goes into each project and at corporate level to make sure that we are meeting the ESG commitments we have made, and not only meeting but surpassing what the expectations are.
For our listeners, could you please elaborate about the flicker area and the shadow area?
So what happens is that when you build a very tall wind turbine, the blades are of say 90 meters radius, right? So the shadow of these blades could be significantly longer depending on the time of the day. And if there are people living under those shadows, they might have an irritating effect because of the shadow or the flicker of the sunlight on these blades. So we first of all make sure that the locations we choose are ideally far away from any habitation. And if there is any habitation within say 200 to 50 meters distance from the wind turbines, we work with the inhabitants and make adjustments to their houses or their living place so that they don't have a negative impact on their health or well-being because of this. So selection of site, and then if you've selected a site which is relatively close to a habitation, we are mitigating any impact of it.
How can the renewable energy sector address the critical mineral challenges at its own level?
Yeah, I believe you're referring to the lithium and silicon, which is a very important part of the value chain. We use lithium in batteries. Most of the batteries used in ESS these days is using lithium. Most of the processing of lithium happens in China. That's a global phenomenon. The mining of lithium happens in several countries, in Africa, Australia, South America. So that is a bit more varied, but processing is quite centered in China, where it is assembly of batteries, making the overall battery enabled system, managing these. We're trying to localize these in India. There's also a performance link incentive plan from the government, which is supporting several companies in the country in this phase. But if you look at upstream value chain, I think it's quite strategic. I don't know if, as an industry proponent, I have any specific answers to it. But yeah, diversification of source of inputs should be very crucial for any company or industry. And that's something we would certainly envisage should happen. And I'm sure our policymakers are looking at that and trying to resolve that.
If I ask you to just give me two recommendations, what will they be?
One recommendation would be to collaborate, right? How other countries have grown from not being very technologically advanced to becoming almost the sole provider of such technologies. They also started off with partnership, be it Japan or China. I would say that let's start with partnership, partnering with other countries and other companies to bring more processing facilities in India. That would require policies for investment into India from Chinese companies to be relaxed, or at least creating a special provision for some strategic areas. So I'm quite optimistic with the recent development at the geopolitical scale. There have been more closeness between India and China, and I'm optimistic that that would result into some positive action in this field. That would be one key message. The second one would be scale is the key. We have to find out ways how we can aggregate capacities and create scale. And for that, there's already a lot of work happening on the BSS side. There is humongous activity. Every week we see new bids coming in and the pricing being very competitive. So there's already a lot of action towards that size, but a consistent and sustained effort for multiple years would be required to create scale, and that will then bring innovations and get us closer to the upstream value chain.
What is your take on India's progress on Panchamrit commitments?
Okay, we've made progress for sure. I think the biggest one has been on adding renewable energy capacity. One of the targets is to generate 50% of electricity from renewable energy. Earlier this year, we announced that in terms of installed capacity, India already has more than 50% of its electricity generation capacity in non-fossil or renewable energy. So that's a positive step. But if you go to a bit of detail there, we are saying 50% of electricity generated, not 50% of installed capacity. So in terms of electricity generated, we are not more than 20%, 25% from non-fossil sources. So that has to go up. That would mean that we'll have to consistently add more renewable energy capacity. The second one, on 500 gigawatts by 2030, I feel there is a risk to getting to that 500 gigawatt number. We are at around 250. So we are at the halfway mark. And this 250, if we add the current run rate of doing, say, 30 to 40 gigawatts every year, we'll be able to add 120 more or maybe 200 more. So we might fall a little bit short unless there are some positive surprises coming in. But I see that as a risk. And the big reason for that is that the transmission capacity has not been able to catch up with generation capacity. So we are seeing delays in projects because of lack of transmission capacity. In terms of the overall emission reduction, I feel that is possible. The overall emission intensity reduction is a huge focus for the government and industries. But still, our nominal emission will continue going up because we are a relatively less developed country. We are a developing country, and we need to consistently grow at 6, 7 or higher percentage for a couple of decades to get to our goal of becoming a developed country by 2047. So that would mean we'll have to do a lot of economic activity, and that would create emissions. That is a challenge, and that is a huge challenge because you have to cater to both the aspirations of the society of having a better standard of living and also mitigate the huge risk of climate crisis which we have ahead of us. So I don't have a simple answer, but I would say we are making progress. We might fall short, but that should not be the reason for any disappointment, because I would track progress rather than meeting exactly the numbers what we targeted.
Before we let you go, it's time for a snappy green sprint segment. Hope.
That we become net zero by 2070.
Youth
is the key. We need the youth to understand the climate crisis and participate in the mitigation.
Finance.
Nothing happens without money. We need $10 trillion in next 20 to 30 years. Let's do whatever it takes to attract as much capital as possible.
Net zero.
Net zero seems like idealistic goal, but if we target that, we will achieve the outcomes of saving the planet.
ESG.
ESG should be a reminder, but reporting is not enough. We need to live it.
Investment insight.
We need to create projects which provide high returns to the investors so that we get a lot of capital coming to our projects.
This was Green Sprint, fast, fierce, and future focused. Because sustainability isn't slow anymore. It's India's newest speed. Thank you, Pratyush, for your time.
Thank you so much, Naina, and all the best.
This is Naina Gautam signing off for Sustainability Karma.
We hope you like this program. We look forward to your feedback on our WhatsApp number 9818120554. For participation in this program, write to us at sustainability.karma@gmail.com. Looking forward to meet you again at the same time next week with a new episode and a new guest. Till then, goodbye from all of us. Sustainability Karma, a podcast series on sustainable development, sustainability, and ESG.